The terrifying universe was like a huge mouth that bit down hard on the proto-beast world. Although the 12 proto-beasts were all slumbering, they were also jolted awake at this moment. They roared at the sky, all of them sensing an intense crisis. The 12 proto-beasts manifested their true forms, blotting out the sky and the sun. They were unimaginably massive. Even the chaotic hallowed beasts in the chaos were only tiny before these 12 proto-beasts. Such huge proto-beasts were simply unheard of. In particular, there was a rich aura of origin on the 12 proto-beasts. Clearly, most of the origin of the proto-beast world lay on the 12 proto-beasts. This was also the true reason why the worlds will wanted to evolve and smother the 12 proto-beasts. It was also for the sake of world origin. Although the 12 proto-beasts were powerful, unfortunately, they were useless against Lin Feng's internal universe. Forget about just the 12 proto-beasts. Even if they could unleash the power of the entire world, it would be useless. It had to be known that Lin Feng's internal universe was no longer what it used to be. With 3 complete worlds, it would be a piece of cake for Lin Feng to devour a complete world with the power of his internal universe at this moment. Boom! Lin Feng's universe enveloped down hard, enveloping the entire proto-beast world. The newly born worlds will seemed ready to stir up trouble, but it was instantly suppressed by Lin Feng. Gradually, the proto-beast world also calmed down, becoming another new civilization in Lin Feng's internal universe, the proto-beast civilization. Currently, the proto-beast civilization was the 8th civilization in Lin Feng's internal universe, but it was the 4th complete world. In the internal universe, only the mage civilization, the chaotic civilization, and the civilization of gods could truly be considered complete. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the other civilizations were superficial. Although they were all called civilizations, if they were put against 4 perfected worlds, they would definitely be crushed and could not contend at all. However, since they were civilizations, and they were in Lin Feng's internal universe, they had infinite potential. Every civilization had great potential for development. For those civilizations without complete worlds, such as the Immortal Land Civilization, Abyssal Civilization, and Netherworld Civilization, as long as they developed slowly with time, it was very likely that they would develop into complete worlds. This was the miraculous thing about controllers. They were all-encompassing, could accommodate many worlds and civilizations, and could even allow worlds to slowly grow and develop. However, the time taken would definitely be very long, and takes far more effort than transferring a complete world directly. However, how could ordinary controllers find a complete world so easily? The reason Lin Feng could find complete worlds time and time again was the space-time gate. He could enter complete worlds directly through the space-time gate. However, there were only 10 chances and only 10 worlds. Back then, the Abyssal Devils wandered in the dark domain for a long time before only finding the chaotic world in the end. This was enough to show how difficult it was to find a complete world. Even celestial devils, with all their methods, would find it very difficult to find a complete world. Hence, while the space-time gate made it seem like finding worlds was very easy, this was just an illusion. Many controllers might not be able to find a complete world in tens of thousands of years. At that time, nurturing civilizations or worlds in the internal universe would be the only way to increase their strength. The Dark Domain. It's indeed the Dark Domain. Lin Feng retracted his consciousness. The proto-beast world had already been devoured into the internal universe. Hence, his surroundings were pitch black and empty. There was no time or space. It was the Dark Domain. Lin Feng raised his arm and glanced at it. The space-time imprint on his arm was still there. With a thought, he could activate the space-time imprint and return to the space-time gate. Just as Lin Feng had guessed, the space-time imprint still existed, and was Lin Feng's greatest reliance to roam the Dark Domain. There's no time to lose. It's time to venture into the Dark Domain. It'd be best if I can leave the Dark Domain. This was not the first time Lin Feng had entered the Dark Domain. Hence, he knew that any method of warping space was useless. In the Dark Domain, the only way to travel was to fly, or rely on some flying transportation tools. Swoosh! Lin Feng naturally relied on himself to fly. He was not afraid of exhausting his strength at all. He was a controller, and his strength came from the internal universe. The power of the internal universe was infinite, and the cycle repeated. He was not afraid of exhausting it at all. No matter how long he flew in the dark domain, it was nothing. Although there was no time in the dark domain, that was only because Lin Feng could not sense the passage of time. There was time in the internal universe, and Lin Feng could only make a judgment through time in the internal universe. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Without realizing it, Lin Feng had already flown in the vast dark domain for nearly 10 years. Although it had been 10 years as he was in the dark domain, there was no passage of time, and Lin Feng could not sense any passage of time. He did not know that so much time had passed. In the past 10 years, Lin Feng had gained nothing. It was as if he had remained in the same spot all along. However, with Lin Feng's speed, he had long flown for an unknown distance in 10 years. How could he not have moved? I still haven't left the dark domain. It's been 10 years. After flying for so long, I must be very far away. However, the dark domain is still the same, as if nothing has changed. Fortunately, there's still the space-time imprint, and it shows no signs of fading. Lin Feng stopped. He knew that if he continued flying, he might not be able to fly out of the dark domain for another 100, 1,000, or even 10,000 years. In such a place with no time or space, traveling through flying alone was far too slow. What do celestial devils rely on to travel in the dark domain? Lin Feng thought of those celestial devils. It was impossible for them to commit suicide every time they wanted to return to the celestial devil world, right? This was only the dark domain kiliocosm, and the dark domain kiliocosm was only a small region of the small kiliocosm. How did the celestial devils travel? How did those controllers travel? Lin Feng vaguely guessed that be it the celestial devils or the controllers, they probably had special methods to travel. Those methods should be extremely fast and not rely on space at all. However, despite thinking hard, he could not think of a method. This was the disadvantage of self-exploration and self-cultivation. No matter what it was, one had to rely on themselves to figure it out. They did not even have someone to communicate with. Flying aimlessly in the dark domain, he did not even know if he had moved. This feeling of loneliness was really unpleasant. Even Lin Feng, who had a strong willpower, found it boring. He even thought of activating the space-time imprint to return to the space-time gate. Fortunately, Lin Feng knew how precious the space-time imprint was. Every time it was used, it would be depleted. He could not activate the space-time imprint unless absolutely necessary. After all, this was a life-saving item. What's that? Suddenly, Lin Feng saw a faint light in the dark domain in front of him. He approached quickly. Light in the dark domain was very strange in itself. When he approached and saw the scene in front of him clearly, even with all his experience and knowledge, Lin Feng could not help but widen his eyes. A trace of shock appeared on his face. Lin Feng saw it. It was a sphere of light, an extremely dazzling light. It emitted traces of world fluctuations, stronger than any world fluctuation Lin Feng had ever seen. If it were just a world, Lin Feng naturally would not be so shocked. However, this incomparably huge world was entangled with another completely different world. It was as if a huge fish had swallowed half of a small fish's body. Now, it was that incomparably huge world that devoured more than half of the slightly smaller world. The ultimate rules of the world were shaking violently. Devouring the world? Lin Feng sensed carefully. It was indeed a stronger world devouring a slightly smaller world. If not for the strong fluctuations of the rules of the world, Lin Feng would have thought that it was another controller. This was because currently only controllers would devour the entire world. Even the celestial devils only devoured world origins, instead of the entire world. The ability to devour other worlds. Looks like this huge world is exceptionally strong. Moreover, the world ruler must have taken up their position. It's a complete world. Many thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind. Worlds could devour each other. Lin Feng knew this very well. Devouring worlds was also a shortcut to rapid expansion. However, if there was no controller and only world rulers, it was actually rather difficult to mobilize a world to begin devouring. For example, in the chaos, the 9 chaotic hallowed venerables had to take up their positions first for the chaos to become consummate. Moreover, the 9 hallowed venerables had to work together completely to propel the entire chaos to move. Furthermore, the speed of movement was very slow, and they had to encounter another weaker world by chance before slowly devouring it. Even when a slightly stronger world was devouring a slightly weaker world, one world devouring another required a long time. It would take at least 100 years, or even tens of thousands of years to complete the process of devouring. Compared to how a controller devoured a world, it was simply too slow. However, it was not unheard of. At the very least, the world in front of him was a world controlled by a world ruler, and it had devoured another world. This was equivalent to a war of annihilation. Once devoured, the other weak world would be completely integrated into the powerful world, and life forms in the weak world would become completely extinct. This was also very different from how controllers only transferred worlds into the internal universe. Lin Feng did not enter these two worlds rashly. This was a war between two worlds. Moreover, such a miraculous scene could only be chanced upon by luck. Lin Feng also wanted to observe for a while longer. Swoosh! Ripples appeared in the pitch-black dark domain, and Celestial Devil Rakshasa stepped out. Behind Celestial Devil Rakshasa were Dijo, Mingxiu, and another 2 Celestial Devils. These made for a total of 5 Celestial Devils, and they were all powerful Celestial Devils who had cultivated 2 layers of the Celestial Devil's true form. Originally, Celestial Devil Rakshasa had only cultivated the first layer of the Celestial Devil's true form. However, at the peak, cultivating 2 layers of the Celestial Devil's true forms was not too difficult. Unfortunately, he met Lin Feng, his Celestial Devil's true form was destroyed, and he was revived in the Celestial Devil pool. Fortunately, the treasure bestowed by the 19th Celestial Devil King allowed the Rakshasa to quickly cultivate 2 layers of the Celestial Devil's true form. Now, under the lead of the Rakshasa, they must find Lin Feng, capture him, and offer him to the 19th Celestial Devil King. It's not far. He must be nearby. I can sense that my flesh is still attached to his internal universe. Heh! How can a controller who's exploring his own path of cultivation know the powerful methods of celestial devils like us? Did he think he could kill me by destroying my celestial devil's true form? Little does he know that it's not that easy to kill a celestial devil completely. Killing any celestial devil will taint one with the aura of flesh. No matter how far he runs, he won't be able to escape my senses. Rakshasa stuck out his scarlet tongue, and a malicious smile appeared on his face. The celestial devils were sinister and cunning, and very vengeful. Lin Feng had destroyed his celestial devil's true form and killed him. His tens of thousands of years of accumulation had been reduced to nothing. How could Rakshasa not be furious? Rakshasa, hurry up and find him. His Majesty the 19th Celestial Devil King is still waiting for good news from us. If we can't find him, you'll have to bear the wrath of His Majesty the Celestial Devil King yourself. Dijo snorted coldly. He was very dissatisfied that he actually had to obey the orders of Rakshasa when following him this time. Of course I know what to do. Dijo Mingxiu, remember? I'm the leader of this operation. With that, Rakshasa led the celestial devils beside him to fly into the infinite dark domain. Not long after the Rakshasa left, 3 more figures vaguely appeared in the dark domain. Swoosh! One of these 3 figures was Celestial Devil Ortos. Sirs, they should be nearby. However, judging from the auras of those 5 figures just now, they must also be Celestial Devils. I wonder which Celestial Devil King they work for? They seem to be searching for that controller too. Ordos was very respectful towards the 2 celestial devils beside him, and did not dare to slight them at all. These 2 people were not ordinary. They were the personal guards of the 11th Celestial Devil King. Every personal guard was a terrifying expert with 5 layers of Celestial Devil's true form. They were also famous among the Celestial Devils. Ordos was only a rising star among the Celestial Devils. If not for the reward from the Celestial Devil King, there was no knowing how long it would take to cultivate the first layer of the Celestial Devil's true form, let alone 5 layers. He knew very well that this operation was mainly led by the 2 personal guards of the Celestial Devil King. He was just leading the way to find their target. Those 5 people should be the celestial devils under His Majesty the 19th Celestial Devil King. However, they're all too weak. They only have 2 layers of the celestial devil's true form. They are asking to be defeated by walking up to a controller with so little strength. The personal guard of Celestial Devil King could tell the background of the 5 celestial devils at a glance. Ordos knew very well that controller Lin Feng had at least 3 complete worlds. Although the cultivation systems of controllers and celestial devils were different, there were some similarities. For example, a controller with 1 world was about equivalent to a celestial devil with 1 layer of celestial devil's true form. By the same vein, acquiring every new world was about equivalent to acquiring another layer of celestial devil's true form. Ordos had sensed that there were 3 worlds in Lin Feng's body last time. Hence, His Majesty the 11th Celestial Devil King had deployed 2 personal guards with 5 layers of celestial devil's true form. Could be considered foolproof. However, Rakshasa and the others did not know. The last time Rakshasa was killed by Lin Feng was in the chaos. At that time, Lin Feng only had the mage world and the chaotic world in his body. Those were only 2 worlds. In the eyes of the Rakshasa, 5 experts with 2 layers of celestial devil's true form were definitely enough to deal with Lin Feng. After all, even controllers or celestial devils would find it extremely difficult to find another world. How could Lin Feng find another world to devour in just 10 years? Rakshasa had no idea that with the spacetime gate, Lin Feng had more than just 2 worlds. Ordos, ignore them. Let them give it a try first. That way we'll have more guarantee of succeeding. A devious smile appeared on the faces of the 2 celestial devils' personal guards. No matter how powerful the celestial devils were, they were all sinister and cunning. They would not remind Rakshasa and the others. At worst, they would just be revived in the celestial devil pool and would not die at all. Moreover, the 2 parties did not work for the same celestial devil's king. They were even competing with each other. Why would they care about each other's lives? All right, let's follow them quietly. Hence, Ordos and the other 2 celestial devils also followed silently. This was the prosperity capital of the prosperity world. Countless innate gods and devils gathered in the prosperity capital. Powerful life forms that cultivated to their current states also rushed to the prosperity capital one after another. This was the center of the entire prosperity world. The 3 true peak entities of the prosperity world were the ancestor of gods and devils, Diwa, and heavenly venerable Hao. They were the rulers of this world. Among them, the ancestor of gods and devils and Diwa were both natural life forms, born powerful. On the other hand, heavenly venerable Hao was an acquired life form. He cultivated to the peak step by step to become one of the strongest entities in the entire prosperity world. After these 3 ruler-level entities took up their positions, the prosperity world was already close to consummation. However, there seemed to be 2 more ruler-level entities missing for the prosperity world to reach consummation. However, even if it became consummate, it was useless. Right now, the entire prosperity world was under the threat of destruction. Diwa, the world origin, is constantly draining. We can't hold out anymore. Can your descendants bring people out of the prosperity world and explore the infinite dark domain beyond? Perhaps they can still preserve some of the vitality of the prosperity world, the ancestor of gods and devils said pessimistically. Currently, more than half of the entire prosperity world had already been devoured by the stronger ageless world. They were already powerless to salvage the situation, and could only watch helplessly as the prosperity world was devoured bit by bit. Diwa was an extremely beautiful woman, but she was the ancestor of acquired life forms in the entire prosperity world. She was the one who created acquired life forms. In a sense, Diwa possessed great virtues and merit. It was precisely these great virtues and merit that allowed her to become one of the world rulers. However, facing the predicament the prosperity world was in now, Diwa shook her head helplessly and said, "Even if some people can escape, they may not be able to preserve our vitality. In the vast dark domain, even if we leave, we might not be able to find another world. Moreover, without the prosperity world, what are we? Indeed, the prosperity world was the foundation. Does the ageless world truly not have any weakness? Heavenly Venerable Hao wore a tall crown on his head. He was the most defiant resistor when they encountered the ageless world previously, and advocated to fight. Unfortunately, before the prosperity world could react, the ageless world had already begun devouring the world directly. Heavenly Venerable Hao personally led the powerful life forms of the prosperity world to war. But they were deflected before they could even enter the ageless world. This is a war of the worlds. After so many years, we've also gained some experience. A war of the worlds is a competition of the foundations of the worlds. Clearly, the foundation of the ageless world far exceeds our imagination. It won't have any trouble devouring the prosperity world at all. All we can do now is to resist with all we have, and try our best to stall for time. The ancestor of gods and devils heaved a long sigh. If the three rulers joined forces, they could indeed mobilize the will of the prosperity world and do their best to resist the ageless world's devouring. However, they could only stall for some time. In the entire vast dark domain, no matter how long the prosperity world stalled, what was the use? Could a miracle happen? In fact, at this moment, even the ancestor of gods and devils had given up. Boom! The entire prosperity world shook again. Heavenly Venerable Hao's expression changed, and he said in a low voice, "Another 38 minor worlds have been devoured by the ageless world, and the speed of devouring is becoming faster and faster. With the current condition of our prosperity world, we can hold out for at most 100 years. What were 100 years worth?" They watched helplessly as the prosperity world was devoured bit by bit, and billions of lives were reduced to ashes, dying completely. One could imagine how much pain it caused to the three ruler-level entities. If possible, I do not want the prosperity world to be devoured by the ageless world, no matter the cost. Heavenly Venerable Hao's face was pale as he bit his lip. After experiencing 126,000 calamities and 98,000 reincarnations, he finally attained the title of Heavenly Venerable Hao in the prosperity world and became a ruler-level entity. Who would have thought that he would be so powerless now? Is that so? If you're really willing to pay the cost, I can protect the prosperity world from being devoured by the ageless world. Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice entered everyone's ears. Rather than a voice, it was more like a thought that appeared directly in their minds. Who is it? Everyone was shocked. Even though the prosperity world was being devoured by the ageless world, and the power of the three rulers was no longer as strong as before, they were not completely devoid of power. At the very least, they could sense everything that happened in the prosperity world. But now, someone had actually appeared beside them out of thin air, and they had not noticed anything. Swoosh! A figure warped out of space. It was a man in white. He looked very young, but the aura on his body seemed out of place in the prosperity world. An alien life form? The expression of the ancestor of gods and devils changed as he thought of a possibility. You are a life form of the timeless world? Heavenly Venerable Hao's face was dark, as if he would erupt at any moment. How can I be a life form of the ageless world? The life forms of the ageless world are all spirit bodies. It's not like you haven't seen them before. I'm made of flesh and blood. How can you not see it? That's right. You're indeed not a life form from the ageless world, but a life form from another world, an alien life form. Tell me, what are you doing in the prosperity world? The ancestor of gods and devils appeared very calm. They had only encountered the ageless world in the dark domain, and it had even devoured them. However, this did not affect their speculations. Since there were the prosperity world and the ageless world in the dark domain, there must be another third, fourth, or even countless worlds. It was just that they had not encountered them. The mysterious person in white in front of him should be a life form from the third world apart from the ageless world and the prosperity world, an alien life form. Me? I'm here to save the prosperity world, of course. I have a way to save you from being devoured by the ageless world, and seeing all the living beings in the entire world reduced to ashes. Why would an alien life form like you come to save our prosperity world out of goodwill? Tell me, what is your goal? The ancestor of gods and devils, Heavenly Venerable Hao, and Diwa were not stupid. Ever since they encountered the ageless world, They understood that the boundless dark domain was actually filled with danger. A world like the prosperity world was definitely considered a very weak world. It was best not to be discovered by other worlds. Once they were discovered, they would be in danger. Of course, I have my own goal. As for my goal, you will naturally see. Moreover, your prosperity world is about to be destroyed. All life forms will go extinct. No matter what my scheme is, the worst outcome can't be worse than your current state, right? By the way, my name is Lin Feng. As for my identity, you can call me the controller. This man in white was Lin Feng. Looking at the ancestor of gods and devils, Diwa, and heavenly venerable Hao, he knew that they would make the right choice. Moreover, apart from trusting him, did they have any other choice now? Controller. Hearing Lin Feng's address, the three rulers fell silent. Just from the name, they had a vague feeling that it was not simple. What do you think of this controller? The ancestor of gods and devils sent a secret voice transmission to Diwa and heavenly venerable Hao. The aura on this person's body is subtle. When I observed him with the delusion breaker eye, I could only vaguely observe that there seems to be a terrifying power in his body. I only sensed some of this terrifying power when I was observing the ageless world. This person is probably not inferior to the ageless world. Heavenly venerable Hao said in a low voice. Not inferior to the ageless world? That shouldn't be possible. He's indeed a flesh and blood life form. How can a flesh and blood life form, even a ruler, be on par with a complete world without the support of his world? And an incredibly powerful world like the ageless world at that. Diwa also had her own opinions. No matter what, just as this person said, no matter how bad the outcome is, it can't be worse than being devoured by the ageless world. Perhaps this is an opportunity. We can hear about how this person can save our prosperity world first. It won't be too late to make a decision after. In the end, after the three of them finished discussing, the ancestor of gods and devils said, Controller, you should know that we are facing the ageless world. Perhaps you are unclear about the power of this world as well. How can you save our prosperity world? The ageless world is indeed very powerful, but you have to know that there are many worlds or life forms stronger than the ageless world in the vast dark domain. Do you know what being a controller means? Come, do not resist. I'll show you the power of a controller. Boom. As soon as Lin Feng finished speaking, the power of the universe instantly swept through the three rulers. The entire world was in turmoil. The will of the prosperity world instantly appeared, trying to stop Lin Feng from sweeping the three rulers away. However, the three rulers still listened to Lin Feng's persuasion and did not resist, allowing Lin Feng to sweep them into the internal universe. Buzz. Ripples appeared in the cosmos, and four figures appeared. Lin Feng had led the three rulers into the internal universe. This is an alien world? The ancestor of gods and devils was a little uncertain. That's right. You can also interpret it this way. This is the alien world. Lin Feng smiled. Then the surroundings changed slightly. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived in the chaotic civilization. This shocked the three rulers. They could not sense any spatial warp. It was as if they had arrived at another unfamiliar world in the blink of an eye. This world is so powerful. It's stronger than our prosperity world. Heavenly Venerable Hao was shocked. He was a ruler-level entity, so he naturally knew the strength of the world. This is a chaotic civilization, or rather, chaotic world. Previously, it was indeed an independent world. However, after entering my internal universe, it also became one of the various civilizations in my internal universe. Lin Feng waved his hand again, and they arrived at the mage civilization. The completely different civilizations and world rules surprised the three juggernauts. They realized that this mage civilization was not inferior to their prosperity world at all. Next were the civilization of gods, the proto-beast civilization, and so on. None of them were inferior to the prosperity world. In fact, the power of the civilization of gods shocked the three rulers. However, even such a powerful civilization was actually only one of the civilizations in Lin Feng's internal universe. A controller, controls everything? Only by embracing countless civilizations and countless worlds can one be a controller. the ancestor of gods and devils, Diwa and heavenly venerable, how had clearly understood the true significance of a controller. It was to be inclusive of all living beings and control countless civilizations and countless worlds. Such a majestic entity was already beyond their imagination. Only at this moment did they realize how majestic and formidable this controller Lin Feng standing before them was. Have you thought it through? Yes. Hence, Lin Feng moved the three rulers out of the internal universe and into the prosperity world again. Since you have thought it through, tell me your decision. Lin Feng stood quietly with his hands behind his back. The expression on his face was very calm. The ancestor of gods and devils, Diwa, and heavenly venerable how looked at each other. Clearly, they had already made their decision. Controller, may I know if our prosperity world can maintain the complete legacy of a civilization after integrating into your internal universe? Of course. Didn't you see? The chaotic civilization, the civilization of gods, the mage civilization, the proto-beast civilization, and so on all maintain their civilization legacies. If we integrate into the internal universe, can current life forms really survive? Of course. None of you have to die. The world rulers can also live on in my universe. As for other life forms, due to the restrictions of the rules of the world, they will naturally fall. Then, after passing through the reincarnation realm, they will return to the universe. Everything will be determined by the operation of the laws of order in the universe. The ancestor of gods and devils took a deep breath and asked the last question. What if we refuse? Refuse? Lin Feng gave a half smile and heaved a long sigh. Then you should also know that with my strength, it does not matter to me whether you refuse. Not only will I integrate your prosperity world, I will also integrate the ageless world into my internal universe. However, taking the initiative to integrate will naturally save some trouble. The three rulers looked at each other and nodded with bitter smiles. They understood. They understood everything now. Whether they were willing or not, the outcome was actually already determined. The reason Lin Feng asked for their opinion was just to save some trouble. I didn't expect the ageless world, which wants to devour the prosperity world, would itself be devoured by a controller in the end. This infinite dark domain is really filled with danger. However, being devoured by a controller and integrated into the internal universe can at least allow us to maintain the legacy of the civilization. We are also rulers and will endure no losses. In fact, having a controller to rely on is much safer than being in the dark domain. The three rulers all nodded and made their decision. Hence, as the representative, the ancestor of gods and devils said, Controller, our prosperity world is willing to take the initiative to integrate into the internal universe. Very good. You've made the right choice. A smile appeared on Lin Feng's lips. This time, he only wanted to give it a try and see if he could convince the prosperity world. From the looks of it, he had succeeded. The prosperity world was the second world after the chaotic civilization to choose to take the initiative to integrate into the internal universe. Of course, there were all kinds of reasons for this. However, that the prosperity world chose integration proactively meant that there were merits to the internal universe of the controller. No wonder the celestial devils said that the controller was the patron of countless worlds. Many worlds even chose to take the initiative to join them to obtain protection. Do not resist. Guide the will of the world to integrate into the internal universe. Lin Feng took a deep breath, and his internal universe instantly descended. Boom! Just as the universe was about to descend, and the vast universe was about to completely devour the prosperity world, an unexpected incident suddenly occurred. Ha ha ha, controller, you're really a lucky star. You actually found a new world. However, both of these worlds are ours now. A familiar voice echoed in Lin Feng's ears. At the same time, 5 figures appeared in the prosperity world. As soon as these 5 figures appeared, they immediately grew to 100,000 feet tall, like terrifying demonic gods. They roared at the sky and ripped down hard with their hands, tearing the prosperity world apart. Endless world origin fell into the mouths of these 5 figures. Celestial devils. These were 5 celestial devils. Lin Feng did not expect the celestial devils to actually appear at a time like this. The 5 celestial devils were all millions of feet tall. Like 5 ferocious beasts, they instantly tore apart the world barrier of the prosperity world and began to devour the origin of the prosperity world directly. Even Lin Feng could not stop them in time. Stop! Lin Feng's universe descended violently. With the full cooperation of the 3 rulers, the ancestor of gods and devils, Diwa, and heavenly venerable Hao, Lin Feng was able to devour the prosperity world into his body in the shortest time possible. However, in such a short period of time, the origin of the prosperity world was already depleted by half. By the time Lin Feng moved the prosperity world into his internal universe, there was only half of the world origin at most. This was not a good thing for the prosperity world. Could be considered severely damaged. If he had acted any later, the prosperity world would have collapsed completely, becoming a dead world. Lin Feng's expression darkened. He stared intently at the 5 celestial devils in front of him and enunciated clearly, "Celestial Devil Rakshasa." Among the 5 celestial devils in front of him, one of them was an old acquaintance of Lin Feng's. It was Celestial Devil Rakshasa. However, back then, Lin Feng had used his internal universe to kill his celestial devil's true form. He was already deader than a doornail. But now, Celestial Devil Rakshasa had appeared in front of Lin Feng again. This at least confirmed one thing. Celestial devils were indeed very difficult to kill. Even if they were killed, they could be resurrected in the celestial devil world. That's right, it's me. You didn't expect me to come so soon, did you? Ha ha ha, I've already told you that celestial devils can't be killed. Even if you kill me 1,000 times or 10,000 times, I can keep reviving. Rakshasa stared coldly at Lin Feng, his eyes filled with raw, killing intent. The last time Lin Feng had destroyed his celestial devil's true form. This was simply a great humiliation to the Rakshasa, and he had suffered heavy losses. If His Majesty the 19th Celestial Devil King had not bestowed him with all kinds of resources and treasures, it would be impossible for him to cultivate to the peak again so quickly, and even make a breakthrough. All of this was caused by the controller Lin Feng. Rakshasa would never forget it. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He was not surprised that the Rakshasa could revive. Since the celestial devils could fight with the controller in countless worlds and become archenemies, they were definitely not that easy to deal with. The fact that the celestial devils could be revived was probably a characteristic of the celestial devils. However, how could the Rakshasa find him so easily? Lin Feng could not figure it out, no matter how hard he thought about it. Hence, he asked in a low voice, "Rakshasa, even if you can revive, it shouldn't be that easy to find me. How did you find me? Could it be that you tampered with my internal universe?" Lin Feng could only think of this possibility. Rakshasa had tampered with his internal universe. A smile appeared on Rakshasa's lips. "That's right. I did tamper with your internal universe. There's no harm in telling you, because there's nothing you can do at all. Every celestial devil can actually be slowly revived, even if only a little flesh is left, but it requires a large amount of energy. This is the undying characteristic of celestial devils. Back when you destroyed my celestial devil's true form, some of my flesh had long dispersed and infiltrated your internal universe. It's even lurking in the bodies of living beings in your internal universe. Don't try to use your power as a controller to search for the celestial devil's flesh in the internal universe, because that's completely futile. As long as my celestial devil's flesh is hidden in the body of the living beings in the internal universe, and I haven't controlled that living being, it will always remain hidden. Even if the controller searches carefully, they won't be able to find anything at all. With the celestial devil's flesh, no matter where you run to, you won't be able to escape my detection." Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. So that was the case. Then he had really been careless. It was not just Rakshasa. There was another celestial devils who Lin Feng had also killed in his internal universe. In that case, the flesh of that celestial devil was also attached to his internal universe. So, don't let the celestial devils enter the internal universe, no matter what. Lin Feng muttered softly. Ultimately, he had relied on himself to become a controller one step at a time. He did not know the characteristics of the celestial devils at all, which was why he was careless. He believed that the other controllers definitely would not be as careless as him and let the celestial devils into their internal universe. Even though controllers were the strongest in their internal universe, it would still give the celestial devils an opportunity to leave behind the celestial devil's flesh, which could be tracked by the celestial devils at all times. That's right. Controllers should never let celestial devils enter your internal worlds. Unfortunately, knowing it now is too late for you. Be good and return to the world of celestial devils with us. The great 19th celestial devil king is very interested in you. Rakshasa and the other 5 celestial devils surrounded Lin Feng in the middle. The terrifying celestial devil's true form that was millions of feet tall emitted a daunting aura. Lin Feng could even vaguely sense 2 terrifying forces among these celestial devils. In reality, those were 2 true layers of celestial devil's true form. With every additional layer of celestial devil's true form, the combat power of the celestial devils would also increase exponentially. Too late? I don't think so. Rakshasa, if I could kill your celestial devil's true form once, I can also kill you twice, thrice, or even countless times. A cosmos appeared behind Lin Feng, and there was the faint aura of civilizations. Since he had already understood the characteristics of the celestial devils, he naturally would not let them into the internal universe lightly again. Stubborn fool. I'll show you the true power of celestial devils. Celestial devil's true form. Boom. Celestial devil Rakshasa's body, which was millions of feet tall, expanded again. 2 bodies and 2 faces even vaguely appeared on it. The aura on his body increased by several times. Rakshasa laughed sinisterly and said, "Do you see that? This is my celestial devil's true form, and it's a 2-layer celestial devil's true form at that. Ha! After capturing you alive this time, His Majesty the 19th Celestial Devil King will definitely reward me with a large amount of world origin. At that time, it's not impossible to condense a 3rd, 4th, or even 5th layer of celestial devil's true form. Apart from killing intent, there was more greed in the way Rakshasa looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng, the controller, was in high demand and invaluable now. It was rare for something to interest the Celestial Devil King. Rakshasa knew that only by capturing Lin Feng alive and offering him to the 19th Celestial Devil King could the benefits be maximized. At the same time, the other 4 Celestial Devils also deployed 2 layers of the Celestial Devil's true form one after another. The Celestial Devil's true forms blotted out everything and surrounded Lin Feng. Even though there was an enormous world phantom behind Lin Feng, these celestial devils were not afraid. It was as if this world could be torn into pieces by the 5 celestial devils at any moment. Is that so? Rakshasa, you're very confident, but 10 years have passed. If you could already cultivate 2 layers of the celestial devil's true form, how could I have stagnated? Since I could kill you once, I can kill you a second time today. None of you can escape. All of you won't leave this place. Lin Feng threw his head back and roared. At the same time, the world phantom behind him expanded wildly, appearing vaguely corporeal. It emitted the aura of several completely different worlds. In particular, there were 5 complete worlds among them. The terrifying world fluctuations made Celestial Devil Rakshasa's ecstatic mood sink instantly. Rakshasa, didn't you say that he only has 2 worlds? Does this look like a controller with 2 worlds? Rakshasa, I will definitely report this matter to His Majesty the Celestial Devil King. When the 5 celestial devils saw Lin Feng use his internal universe, their expressions changed drastically. Humph! Lin Feng had no intention of letting these 5 celestial devils off, especially Rakshasa. He wanted to see how soon the other party could revive after killing Rakshasa for the second time. Lin Feng did not believe that there was really no price to pay for resurrection. If that was really the case, the celestial devils would have long unified the countless myriad worlds. Even controllers would not be their match. No, it can't be real. He must be faking it. Rakshasa's expression changed drastically. Then, his 2 layers of celestial devil's true form took the initiative to attack Lin Feng. You overestimate yourself. In Lin Feng's internal universe, there were the chaotic civilization, mage civilization, civilization of gods, and proto-beast civilization. Now, there was also the prosperity civilization. There were a total of 5 worlds. Their power was unbelievable, far exceeding the power when he encountered celestial devil Rakshasa back then. In just 10 years, who would have thought that Lin Feng's strength had increased countless times? Thud. The majestic celestial devil's true form, and two-layer celestial devil's true form at that, was completely crushed by Lin Feng's absolute strength. It exploded instantly, and a great amount of flesh tried to scatter. However, Lin Feng was already prepared. Infinite flames burned in the void, killing Rakshas's two-layer celestial devil's true form again. Although the celestial devil's true form contained unparalleled power since Lin Feng learned of the undying characteristic of the celestial devils, he did not dare to use his internal universe to absorb the power of the celestial devils for his own use anymore. He would rather waste the massive power in these celestial devils' true forms. Die! There were 4 more celestial devils. Lin Feng turned around and encompassed the 4 celestial devils in his range of attack. Immediately, the 1,000,000-feet-tall celestial devils' true forms were helplessly blasted apart amidst their furious roars. This was purely a crushing defeat, even though 2 levels of the celestial devil's true form were indeed very difficult to contend against. Their strength had increased by several times, and they were even more difficult to deal with. If it were Lin Feng from 10 years ago when he had just encountered the Rakshasa in the chaos, he would probably really be in danger. But now, Lin Feng was no longer the same as before. He had improved even faster. Hence, he was the one who crushed these 4 celestial devils instead. Soon, the 4 celestial devils' true forms were also destroyed by Lin Feng. The violent power was still fluctuating continuously in the dark domain. Even the ageless world beside them sensed such a huge commotion. As if it had been spooked, it was actually moving slowly and appeared to be trying to escape. However, the ageless world was an enormous world and moved very slowly. Once it was discovered by the celestial devils or the controller, it could forget about escaping. Ageless world, devour. Seeing that the ageless world was moving, Lin Feng naturally understood the plans of the rulers of the ageless world. But it won't be that easy for them to escape. Boom! Lin Feng did not hesitate at all. His internal universe descended above the ageless world. It was like a huge mouth, about to devour the ageless world in one gulp. However, the ageless world was a huge world that could take the initiative to devour other worlds. Its power far exceeded other worlds. Even the world of gods was far inferior to the ageless world. This was because the ageless world had once successfully devoured a complete world. Hence, the infinite power of the ageless world converged, as if it had transformed into a giant. With a furious roar, it held up Lin Feng's internal universe with both hands, preventing it from devouring the ageless world. This was the first time Lin Feng had encountered such a strong resistance, and it could actually slightly resist his internal universe from devouring it. However, this only strengthened Lin Feng's determination to devour the ageless world. Once he devoured such a powerful world, his internal universe would probably be correspondingly enhanced to a terrifying level. Lin Feng would not miss such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Spare us, great and powerful being. Our ageless world will not yield. Great expert, our ageless world is willing to offer treasures. Spare us. Many thoughts appeared in Lin Feng's mind. He knew that these were the words of the rulers of the ageless world. The ageless world was a very unique world. The lifeforms inside were not flesh-type lifeforms, but spirit-type lifeforms. They had no corporeal bodies at all, and were entirely constructed from mental power. Every lifeform in the ageless world was called ageless, precisely because of their special compositions. However, these were also lifeforms and not truly ageless. In the vast world, no lifeform was ageless. Even celestial devils and controllers would still fall if long enough time passed. After all, worlds would collapse, and the universe would also explode. As long as they were lifeforms, it was impossible for them to be ageless. Lifeforms in this ageless world just had very long lifespans. It was precisely this unique composition of lifeforms that made the ageless world special. It made the ageless world incomparably powerful, and even took the opportunity to devour other worlds to strengthen itself. The life forms of the ageless world had also tasted the benefits of devouring a world. Once they devoured a world, those rulers were not the only ones who grew stronger. As the entire ageless world expanded, every ageless life form would grow stronger and obtain unimaginable benefits. Unfortunately, they encountered Lin Feng this time. Not only had Lin Feng devoured the prosperity world, he had also fought with 5 powerful celestial devils. A battle at that level made the life forms of the ageless world realize that the dark domain was very dangerous. There were only too many entities stronger than their world. Hence, they chose to escape. However, Lin Feng caught up. "I don't need any of your treasures. Only your entire world. Come, enter my universe and become a new civilization. The Agel's civilization? It must be very interesting, and can also enrich my universe." Lin Feng controlled the power of the 5 worlds and pressed down like a great mountain. Thud. Finally, the ageless world could not hold out anymore. The illusory giant instantly dissipated. Lin Feng's internal universe descended. It was like a huge mouth that bit down on the ageless world hard. This is the moment. Celestial Devil's true form, kill. In the vast dark domain, 3 figures suddenly darted out. 2 of them instantly expanded to billions of feet tall, and their entire bodies emitted a terrifying aura. First layer, second layer, third layer, fourth layer, fifth layer. They were actually celestial devils with 5 layers of the celestial devil's true form, and there were 2 of them at that. These 2 celestial devils seemed to have been hiding nearby for a long time. The dignified celestial devils with 5-layer celestial devils' true forms were hiding at the side for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Lin Feng was devouring the ageless world, and all the power in his body was occupied. He was at his weakened state, so they launched an instantaneous attack at this moment. Full power. The 2 celestial devils did not hesitate at all and used their full power directly, not giving Lin Feng any respite. They also knew very well what it meant once Lin Feng devoured the ageless world. In fact, the 2 dignified celestial devils with 5 layers of celestial devil's true form were about to have their true forms slain. Kill them. They acted without any hesitation. Even Ordos, who only had 1 layer of the celestial devil's true form, could do wonders at this moment. The 3 celestial devils attacked in a frenzy from the moment they appeared, not giving Lin Feng any respite. It was as if they were preparing to kill him in one strike. Ordos. Lin Feng saw the appearance of the celestial devil in front of him. Ordos, the second celestial devil he had killed, had actually revived as well. He was even hiding at the side, watching apathetically as he killed the 5 celestial devils, including Xianxia. He only attacked when Lin Feng was entangled with the ageless world, instantly forcing Lin Feng into the most difficult predicament and danger. This kind of temperament and ability to scheme were truly terrifying. They were sinister, cunning, completely unscrupulous, and willing to achieve their goals at all costs. These were what celestial devils were like. Only Ordos could be considered a true celestial devil. No one had expected that there would be more celestial devils. Even Lin Feng had not expected it. Ordos was nothing. Even though Lin Feng was in his weakened state, and all his power was occupied by the ageless world, he could not be shaken by a mere celestial devil with 1 layer of true form like Ordos. However, the other 2 celestial devils were different. All of them had 5 layers of celestial devil's true form. Any one of them was strong enough to defeat the 5 previous celestial devils, including Xianxia. Their strength was very terrifying. Even compared to Lin Feng's peak state, they were about equal. Moreover, his power was occupied now, and he was at his weakest. Once these 2 celestial devils attacked, it would be an earth-shattering force that was simply unparalleled. Boom! The 2 celestial devils were too terrifying. This was not the first time Lin Feng had fought with celestial devils, and he had also seen many celestial devils' true forms. Celestial devils and controllers had 2 different cultivation systems. Although they both cultivated themselves, one focused on internal power, and the other on external power. Controllers focused on the development of their own world, while celestial devils focused on their own body. They used external objects to constantly enhance their body, allowing their celestial devil's true form to become stronger and stronger. Even if it reached a certain threshold of power and could no longer grow stronger, they could take an alternate path and cultivate the second, third, and even countless layers of celestial devil's true form. This was the most terrifying aspect of the celestial devils. Lin Feng had already encountered the celestial devil's true form. It was indeed very terrifying. However, at this moment, this was the first time Lin Feng had encountered a 5-layer celestial devil's true form. That power blasted Lin Feng's internal universe all at once. Immediately, Lin Feng's internal universe shook continuously, like the legendary water god Gonggong crashing into Mount Buzhou in anger. Although Mount Buzhou was very strong, it was also shattered by Gonggong. At this moment, Lin Feng's internal universe felt like it was falling apart and was on the verge of collapse. Chaotic Lotus. At the critical moment, the chaotic lotus manifested in Lin Feng's internal universe. Thick roots connected the entire internal universe like dense spiderwebs. Even if the cosmic membrane was torn apart, it was still firmly pulled by the roots of the chaotic lotus, allowing the internal universe to be preserved and not collapse immediately. At this point, Lin Feng looked at the ageless world in front of him. It might still take some time to devour. The ageless world was also resisting, and the 2 celestial devils had even manifested their 5-layer celestial devils' true forms. They were about to completely destroy Lin Feng's internal universe at one go. Lin Feng's chaotic lotus could protect Lin Feng's internal universe once, but it could not protect it for a second time. At this point, Lin Feng knew that he had to make a trade-off. Space-time imprint. Without any hesitation, Lin Feng chose to activate the space-time imprint immediately. However, this time was different from usual. His internal universe was devouring the ageless world, and he had only devoured half of it. Even Lin Feng could not be completely sure what would happen when he activated the space-time imprint. However, he had no choice at this moment. The celestial devils were ready to attack, and they had seized the opportunity to kill him in one fell swoop. Lin Feng could not hesitate. Buzz. The power of the space-time imprint was activated. Immediately, a strange power, different from any controller or any celestial devils, enveloped Lin Feng's body. It even enveloped the internal universe and half of the ageless world that was bitten down by the internal universe. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, Lin Feng's figure disappeared. Even the ageless world disappeared along with him without a trace. But the 3 celestial devils could not find any signs at all. That's right. It's this power. Last time, Lin Feng escaped silently like this. There are no clues at all. Ordo's eyes widened as he said excitedly. He had actually been observing closely. He was wary that what happened the last time would happen, but they still failed to stop Lin Feng from escaping. This controller probably has a secret. The 2 personal guards of the celestial devils King wore solemn expressions. This time, the 2 of them had joined forces to attack, and they were taking advantage of the situation. Almost half of Lin Feng's strength was occupied, and he could not resist with all his might. Even so, the 2 of them still failed on the verge of success. This was not something that could be summarized by simple luck. Lin Feng must have some secrets, even earth-shattering secrets. Otherwise, how could a controller be born in the backward and remote dark domain, and even escape the pursuit of the celestial devils time and time again? Return and report the situation to His Majesty the 11th Celestial Devil King. One of the celestial devil personal guards said quietly. Ordos was a little unwilling. He was suddenly slightly stunned, then shouted, "He's appeared. Lin Feng has appeared. I sensed his traces again. However, he seems to be a little far from here. Why don't we chase after him? Perhaps we can still capture him alive." However, the expressions of the other 2 celestial devil personal guards darkened. They shook their heads and said coldly, "Are you trying to court death by pursuing him now? By the time we catch up, he'll probably have already devoured the ageless world. Once he devours the ageless world, his internal universe will expand to an unimaginable extent. Even if the 2 of us have cultivated 5-layer celestial devils' true forms, we probably won't be able to resist it." "That's right. Remember, he's a controller, an entity as great as us celestial devils. If we can't kill him this time, it'll be even harder to kill him next time. He's no longer someone we can deal with now. We'll report clearly to His Majesty the Celestial Devil King when we return. The Celestial Devil King will make his own plans. With that, the two Celestial Devil personal guards ignored Ortos. With a flash, they disappeared into the dark domain through some unknown method. Although Ordos was a little reluctant, he knew that what the two Celestial Devil personal guards had said made sense. The strength Lin Feng had displayed just now was actually already daunting, and was not inferior to any Celestial Devil who had cultivated a 5-layer Celestial Devil's true form. If not for the fact that Lin Feng was devouring the ageless world, and most of his power was occupied, the two Celestial Devil personal guards might not have been able to do anything to Lin Feng. Moreover, the current Lin Feng still had the strange method of disappearing. Before they figured it out or had absolute guarantee of success, continuing to hunt Lin Feng down would only be courting death. Although the Celestial Devils were greedy and cunning, they were also very cautious, and would not do anything they were not confident in. Hence, Ordos could only give up and return to the Celestial Devil world. Buzz. In front of the space-time gate, a huge world suddenly appeared. At the same time, a staggering figure appeared, looking rather disheveled. Devour! This slightly staggering figure was Lin Feng. As soon as he saw the space-time gate, almost without any hesitation, he continued to activate the power of his internal universe to devour the ageless world. Fortunately, the power of the space-time imprint was very strong. It even brought the ageless world back, so Lin Feng's efforts were not in vain. Swoosh! Finally, Lin Feng devoured the ageless world. He heaved a long sigh of relief. That was close. My internal universe almost collapsed. Lin Feng looked at the huge space-time gate, which emitted a mysterious aura. Thinking of the previous situation, even Lin Feng had lingering fears. Lin Feng immersed his consciousness in his internal universe. At this moment, his internal universe looked tattered, and countless civilizations were shaken. Those weak civilizations, such as the Immortal Land Civilization, the Netherworld Civilization, the Abyss Civilization, and so on, were actually all very fragile. Even the slightest tremor in the universe could affect them. On the other hand, complete worlds like the Chaotic Civilization, the Mage Civilization, and so on could withstand most of the tremors, and remained completely intact. Chaotic Lotus. Lin Feng looked at the Chaotic Lotus in the void. This Chaotic Lotus was actually just a miraculous item in the chaos. Lin Feng had integrated the chaotic world into his internal universe, so he naturally knew everything in the chaos like the back of his hand. Originally, the Chaotic Lotus was only a chaotic miraculous item. However, when Lin Feng transformed into a universe, this Chaotic Lotus was already in the internal universe, and it was closely connected to the origin of the internal universe. As the internal universe expanded, the Chaotic Lotus also continued to grow. It was no longer as simple as a miraculous item in the chaos, but had undergone some kind of qualitative change. The current Chaotic Lotus controlled the void, and firmly connected the void of the internal universe, stabilizing the void and making the internal universe impregnable. This time, even when two celestial devils with 5-layer celestial devils' true forms attacked together, they could not break Lin Feng's internal universe. It was thanks to this Chaotic Lotus. My strength is still a little lacking, but there are the Chaotic Civilization, the Mage Civilization, the Civilization of Gods, the Proto-Beast Civilization, and the Prosperity Civilization in my internal universe. Under normal circumstances, they should be comparable to even celestial devils with 5-layer celestial devils' true forms, or even stronger. Why do they seem so fragile when facing the 5-layer celestial devil's true form? I can clearly sense that there's still a lot of power in my internal universe, but I can't unleash it. Lin Feng frowned. He felt that he was far from unearthing the power of the internal universe to the extreme. In the past, he had been constantly devouring worlds, but had not paid attention to managing and unearthing the internal universe. After sorting it out carefully for a while, Lin Feng gradually found the reason. There were 5 complete worlds in his body, and now, with the addition of the Undying Worlds, it was about equivalent to 6 complete worlds. In particular, the Undying Worlds were very powerful. Even 7 or 8 worlds were nothing. However, with so many worlds piled up together, the controller relied on his internal universe to fuse the power of all the worlds together to begin with. A controller had to embrace infinite worlds. Unfortunately, Lin Feng's accumulation was too little, and his foundation was too shallow. In just a few decades or centuries, he had acquired 6 worlds in his internal universe. Such a short period of time was not even enough for the digestion of his internal universe. The internal universe also needed to digest worlds. In particular, Lin Feng had another principle, and that was not to damage the native lifeforms of these worlds when devouring them, and to preserve the legacy of the civilizations. This way, Lin Feng could at most unleash 50 to 60% of the power of these worlds. After all, the true power of a world was still in the hands of those lifeforms. Lin Feng did not kill all those native lifeforms. They did not pass through the reincarnation realm of the internal universe, where they would be marked by the imprint of the internal universe. Hence, Lin Feng could not use the power of these lifeforms. Originally, Lin Feng wanted to let nature take its course, and allow these native living beings in the world to die naturally before entering the reincarnation realm. This way, Lin Feng's internal universe would naturally gain complete control over those worlds slowly. Unfortunately, Lin Feng's foundation was too little, and his ascension was too quick. He did not have thousands or tens of thousands of years to digest it properly. If he wanted to increase his strength quickly without devouring worlds, Lin Feng only had 2 methods. He could either erase all the life forms in those worlds and send them back to the reincarnation realm. After the cycle, the power of those life forms would naturally return to his internal universe, and Lin Feng's strength would increase explosively. However, this went against Lin Feng's original intention. He could not bear to erase trillions of lives at once. Then, there was only the second method left: time acceleration. As a controller and the god of creation of the universe, Lin Feng was naturally at ease with the laws of the universe. He could control them at will, and even the most mysterious law of time was no exception. Lin Feng was capable of accelerating time. Moreover, accelerating time would not affect the living beings in the internal universe at all. However, it could cause a difference in the flow of time. For example, if Lin Feng was in the outside world for a year, 10 years, 100 years, or even longer might have passed in the internal universe. To Lin Feng, since he could not bear to erase trillions of lives, he could only accelerate time. However, there was a limit to the acceleration of time in an internal universe. Lin Feng began to mobilize the power of the universe to analyze the law of time. But, at once, it was like Lin Feng had fiddled with the chord of time. He did not feel anything in the internal universe, but when Lin Feng retracted his consciousness, he could sense that the difference in the flow of time was changing rapidly. Originally, there was already a certain time difference between the internal universe and the outside world. It was just that it was not too obvious. But now, as Lin Feng accelerated time, the difference in time flow became even more obvious. 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. This won't do. If it goes any faster, my internal universe won't be able to hold out. Currently, this difference in the flow of time is the limit of my internal universe. Lin Feng muttered softly, but a smile appeared on his lips. A difference of 10,000 times in the flow of time. What kind of concept was this? This meant that a year in the outside world was 10,000 years in the internal universe. A difference of 10,000 times in the flow of time would actually consume a lot of energy in the internal universe, and it was not very stable for the internal universe. However, Lin Feng knew that this was only temporary. Once he controlled almost all the power in the entire internal universe, and could utilize more than 90% of it, he would adjust the flow of time again, and would not put too much burden on the internal universe. It's about time. With such a huge difference in the flow of time, the ordinary people in the universe will probably undergo reincarnation soon. The power of the internal universe will also gradually strengthen. A satisfied smile appeared on Lin Feng's lips. He might as well cultivate in front of the space-time gate. This place was left behind by Dawn. With Dawn's abilities, even the celestial devils would probably find it very difficult to sense it. It was actually a relatively safe place. Although there was no time in the dark domain, That was only because Lin Feng could not sense the passage of time. In reality, was there really no time anywhere? If there was no time, time would stand still. In other words, no matter how long one stayed inside, nothing would change outside. That would be no time, or rather, time stopped. How majestic a power would it take to stop time? At the very least, even though Lin Feng was a controller, he could not stop time in his internal universe. If he really stopped time by force, his internal universe would probably collapse. As time passed, Lin Feng could also clearly feel that his control over his internal universe had increased. Or rather, the power he could unleash had increased greatly. In the past, although Lin Feng was a controller and could unleash the power of the internal universe, in reality, this was his illusion. Most of the power in the internal universe was controlled by the lifeforms of those worlds. Now, as the flow of time reached 10,000 times, although Lin Feng felt that time outside was very short, there was no knowing how much time had passed in the internal universe. Hence, the power of Lin Feng's internal universe was also gradually increasing. 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. A year in the outside world was equivalent to a total of 10,000 years in the internal universe. 10,000 years was a very long time for ordinary life forms, or even some cultivators. They had even reproduced for countless generations. In the internal universe, almost 99% of the life forms with the original world imprints had already died. The remaining ones were all certain world rulers or cultivators with very long lifespans. Their impact on Lin Feng's internal universe was actually negligible. Lin Feng had finally truly grasped the power of the internal universe, and at least 99% of it. Only at this moment did Lin Feng truly feel invincible power, and truly feel that he controlled everything. If those celestial devils with 5-layer celestial devils true forms appeared again at this moment, or even those with 6-layer celestial devils true forms, Lin Feng was confident that he could blast them apart directly. The flow of time at 10,000 times is truly incredible. However, it's only been a year, but the consumption of the internal universe is already very large. Lin Feng glanced at the situation in his internal universe. With the flow of time at 10,000 times, a year in the outside world was actually 10,000 years in the internal universe. To life forms in the internal universe, this was a solid 10,000 years. 10,000 years was enough for cultivators to become indomitable hegemons of a region. Ordinary people might no longer have any descendants in 10,000 years. In 10,000 years, there was no knowing how many events have occurred, including drastic changes. Great upheavals had occurred, and the world underwent a makeover. Heroes were born in every generation. It was simply too long. Even in the chaotic civilization, the 3,000 universe demons had actually become terrifying entities similar to chaotic divine beasts. Time is truly an incomparably miraculous law. Lin Feng seemed to have a deeper understanding of the law of time. Originally, he thought that since he was a controller, he should know all the laws in the universe at heart. But now, it seemed like he had never understood the law of time. In a sense, the space-time gate, the river of space-time, and so on that Dawn had left behind were all related to the law of time. They could all be considered a subdivision of the law of time. However, Lin Feng could not comprehend them. It's about time. The flow of time at 10,000 times is too great, and it consumes too much origin. Maintaining a flow of time at about 10 times will allow the universe to operate normally without any burden. Lin Feng slowly controlled the flow of time to about 10 times. If it was 10,000 times, it would actually require consuming a large amount of universe origin, because all laws were actually manifestations of world origin. Fortunately, Lin Feng's internal universe was huge, and its origin was very abundant. It was enough to maintain a flow of time of 10,000 times for as long as about 10,000 years. It would probably not be a problem for him to continue maintaining the internal universe for another 100 million years. However, Lin Feng had already grasped 99% of the power of the internal universe. He had already achieved his goal. There was no need to maintain such a huge difference in the flow of time which would consume too much of the origin. If the world origin was left to increase on its own, the process would be very slow. It was by relying on the space-time gate, and devouring world after world in a short period of time, that Lin Feng was able to increase the world origin by so much in such a short period of time. It's about time. There's no point in continuing to cultivate diligently. I still have to think of a way to leave the dark domain. Looks like I still have to rely on the spacetime gate to warp. Looking at the spacetime gate, many thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind. Only by descending into the worlds in the dark domain through the spacetime gate could he get a spacetime imprint. This was Lin Feng's greatest failsafe at the moment. In particular, with the celestial devils targeting him, he had even more reason to get a failsafe. However, he had already warped once the last time. Currently, there were only 6 worlds left in the spacetime gate. In other words, Lin Feng could only warp 6 more times. There were 6 spacetime imprints left. Lin Feng did not want to meaninglessly waste opportunities to warp again and again. If he exhausted the spacetime imprints and encountered danger again, there would be no guarantee of his safety. Originally, the best and safest method was to eliminate the celestial devil's flesh that Rakshasa and Ordos had left in the internal universe. That way, Rakshasa and Ordos would not be able to sense Lin Feng's exact location. Unfortunately, after Lin Feng tried many methods, and even searched inch by inch, he still could not find the flesh left behind by the celestial devils. In fact, under the flow of time at 10,000 times in his internal universe, many lifeforms had reincarnated, but he still did not find any aura of the celestial devils in the reincarnation realm. It seemed like the celestial devil's technique of concealment was indeed very terrifying. Even though Lin Feng was a controller, he still could not eliminate a trace of flesh left behind by the celestial devils in the internal universe. However, regardless of whether the celestial devils were targeting him, Lin Feng had to leave the dark domain. Only by finding other controllers could Lin Feng understand the true path of cultivation for controllers. Then, he would not have to be on tenterhooks all day, fearful of the threat of the celestial devils. Swoosh! Hence, Lin Feng entered the spacetime gate again and arrived at the river of spacetime once more. He looked for the nearest world and entered it directly. The 5th world. I hope I'm a bit luckier this time and won't encounter any more celestial devils. Lin Feng's figure quickly disappeared into the river of spacetime. He had already entered the 5th world in the river of spacetime. The exquisite Kiliacosm was a huge region that contained countless complete worlds. A great many worlds meant countless resources and infinite world origins. Precisely for this reason, the celestial devils and the controllers fought over the control of the exquisite Kiliacosm and initiated a war. The war had already gone on for tens of millions of years, and was finally gradually coming to an end. The controllers undoubtedly had the absolute advantage. In the exquisite Kiliacosm, the base of the controllers had established a huge war fortress that stretched across the Kiliacosm, emitting an infinite aura of authority that ruled over the entire Kiliacosm. Supremacy Summer, there are still 3 more celestial devils worlds in the exquisite Kiliacosm. They are just putting up a final struggle and at the end of their rope. I order you to annihilate those 3 celestial devils worlds and conquer the exquisite Kiliacosm completely. Supremacy Autumn, I heard that last time celestial devils from other worlds participated in the war, and the various supremacies repelled them successfully under your lead. Now, I'm ordering you to pursue those celestial devils. I suspect that those celestial devils have found another secret location that we haven't discovered. If the celestial devils are allowed to develop, they might make a comeback to threaten the exquisite Kiliacosm. Supremacy Winter, the Primordial Lodge is preparing to establish another battlefield in this small Kiliacosm. In a few days, a 1-star supremacy will be sent down from the main lodge of the medium Kiliacosm. You are in charge of receiving him and explaining the matters of the small Kiliacosm as soon as possible. This is an order from the main lodge. Carry it out with care. The 3 supremacies naturally accepted the orders. Supremacy Spring, you probably have a chance of becoming a 1-star supremacy after this war in the exquisite Kiliacosm. At that time, you might even have a chance to advance to the main lodge of the middle world. That's our lifelong pursuit, Supremacy Winter said enviously. Although they were all 4-season supremacies of the Primordial Lodge, it was obvious that Supremacy Spring was the strongest, and was also the person in charge of the entire exquisite Kiliakosm battlefield. Most of the credit for winning the battles in the exquisite Kiliakosm would go to Supremacy Spring, so he was naturally valued by the Origin Lodge. A rare smile appeared on Supremacy Spring's face as well. We controllers have fought with the Celestial Devils for countless years, and both sides have experienced victories and defeats. Those Celestial Devils are sinister and cunning. We have no choice but to stay on guard. Now, there are only 3 Celestial Devils worlds left in the exquisite Kiliakosm. The Supremacies still need to work together to completely destroy the 3 Celestial Devils worlds. Only then can we be completely at ease. I wish you all the best. Haha, Supremacy Spring, don't worry. We will definitely do our best. The various Supremacies threw their heads back and laughed aloud. Victory was imminent. Even these great and powerful Supremacy controllers were elated. Arg, that damned controller, that damned controller. I lost a total of 33 layers of Celestial Devil's true form. That's 33 layers of Celestial Devil's true form. In the Celestial Devil Palace, the 11th Celestial Devil King was roaring wildly. His terrifying aura seemed to be about to demolish the entire Celestial Devil Palace. Even the personal guards of the 11th Celestial Devil King absolutely did not dare to approach at this moment. In the outside world, the 11th Celestial Devil King was known as the Thousand-Faced Celestial Devil King. He was proficient in transformation, and his Celestial Devil's deception was even more proficient. Sometimes, even a controller would not be able to discover him if they were caught off guard. Hence, the 11th Celestial Devil King would occasionally join the battlefields elsewhere to take advantage of the situation. A few days ago, the 11th Celestial Devil King went to the exquisite Kiliakosm. The Celestial Devils there were in imminent danger, and the price they offered was very high. The 11th Celestial Devil King could not wait anymore, so he went to the exquisite Kiliakosm. In the end, the moment he got there, 1 layer of his Celestial Devil's true form was destroyed by a controller. The 11th Celestial Devil King was a little dissatisfied, so he went to the exquisite Kiliakosm again some time ago. However, this time, the 11th Celestial Devil King was clearly somewhat unlucky. Among the controllers of the exquisite Kiliakosm, he actually encountered the Supremacy Summer of the Primordial Lodge. That was one of the 4 seasons Supremacies, one of the strongest controllers in the exquisite Kiliakosm. For this, the 11th Celestial Devil King paid the price of a full 33 layers of Celestial Devil's true form. It was not easy to condense these 33 layers of Celestial Devil's true form again. He needed to devour dozens of world origins, and it would take tens of thousands of years or even longer to recover. Damn Supremacy Summer, one day, I'll make you pay a painful price. The 11th Celestial Devil King gritted his teeth, but he did not dare to go to the exquisite Kiliakosm again. This time, he could also tell that the situation in the exquisite Kiliakosm was hopeless. The controllers were about to completely take over the exquisite Kiliakosm. No matter how many more Celestial Devils were deployed, they would just be sent to their deaths. No, I have to make up for my losses. The 11th Celestial Devil King's eyes flicked about. If he wanted to make up for his losses as soon as possible, he had to send more Celestial Devils to search through the vast dark domain. However, it was a fool's dream to search for dozens of worlds in a short period of time. It was completely impossible. Moreover, even though he was the Celestial Devil King, he could not control his subordinates. According to the usual practice, a portion of the worlds he found had to be divided among his subordinates. Otherwise, other Celestial Devils would have stopped joining him long ago. Celestial Devils were selfish. Even Celestial Devil Kings had to promise great benefits. By the way, some time ago, the personal guards reported that the controller who appeared in the dark domain seems to have a lot of worlds in his internal universe. He had about 6 or 7. The 11th Celestial Devil King had a sudden thought. He recalled the report from the personal guards some time ago. Last time, his 2 personal guards had returned with Ortos empty-handed. They had not taken down that controller, and he had even punished the 2 personal guards. However, at that time, he was focused on heading to the exquisite Kiliakosm, so he did not take it to heart. But now, he had returned empty-handed, and suffered heavy losses in the exquisite Kiliakosm. If he wanted to make up for some losses, that controller might be the answer. Naturally, the 11th Celestial Devil King turned his sight to him. Go find Ordos. The 11th Celestial Devil King ordered people to find Celestial Devil Ordos. Moreover, 2 of the personal guards he had punished also arrived at the Celestial Devil Palace. Ordos was a little nervous. The 11th Celestial Devil King before him had recently suffered heavy losses in the exquisite Kiliacosm, and was bellowing in the Celestial Devil Palace every day. He did not dare to anger the Celestial Devil King, so he lowered his head and stayed quiet. Ordos, can you still sense that controller in the dark domain? The voice of the 11th Celestial Devil King echoed in the Celestial Devil Palace. Ordos was slightly surprised, but he immediately reacted and hurriedly said, "Yes, I can still sense the traces of that controller. He seemed to have used some method to prevent me from sensing him previously, but now I feel that I am able to sense him again." Ordos was also puzzled as to how the controller, Linfeng, had blocked his detection. "Very good. It's fine as long as you can sense him. I'll give you a mission now. I'll transfer a team of 38 personal guards under your command. Remember, you must capture him alive. If you fail this time, you can forget about returning." Ordos was overjoyed. A team of personal guards. He knew very well that there were a total of 38 personal guards under the 11th Celestial Devil King. Even the weakest ones among them had cultivated 5 layers of Celestial Devil's true form, and the leader had even cultivated a terrifying 10 layers of Celestial Devil's true form. With such a team allocated to him to deal with that controller, Ordos was also filled with confidence. However, at the thought of how that controller had mysteriously disappeared, Ordos was a little hesitant. "Your Majesty, that controller is a little strange. Originally, we were about to successfully capture him the last time, but he suddenly disappeared without a trace. If he disappears mysteriously again this time, I'm afraid." Ortos's meaning was very clear. The controller, Linfeng, might very well have the ability to mysteriously disappear. At the very least, celestial devils like them could not tell what kind of power it was, and did not know how he had disappeared without a trace. The 11th Celestial Devil King frowned. In his opinion, that was a mere controller with a few worlds in his body at most. What mysterious abilities could he have that could allow him to disappear silently? "Forget it, this is a little of my flesh. When you find that controller and confirm his location, I'll personally come and see how he mysteriously disappeared. Remember, I want him alive." Seeing that the 11th Celestial Devil King was actually willing to come personally, Ordos heaved a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that if Linfeng mysteriously disappeared again, the 11th Celestial Devil King would rip him apart in a fit of anger. However, if the Celestial Devil King attacked personally, regardless of whether it worked, it would have nothing to do with Ordos anymore. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will definitely find Controller Linfeng as soon as possible." With that, Ordos retreated respectfully. A personal guard team under the 11th Celestial Devil King was already waiting outside the Celestial Devil Palace. The leader was the famous Celestial Devil Blood Fury. "Captain Blood Fury, let's set off. I'm only in charge of finding him. Captain Blood Fury is in charge of capturing the controller alive." Ordos was very respectful towards the Celestial Devil Blood Fury. Although the Celestial Devil King had deployed a personal guard team to him, how could he dare to really command this personal guard team? After all, any personal guard in the team had at least cultivated 5 layers of the Celestial Devil's true form, and was countless times stronger than Ordos. In the Celestial Devil world, the strong were respected. Strength was the best license. Even with the orders of the Celestial Devil King, Ordos did not dare to get carried away. "It's good that you know your place. Lead the way." Blood Fury was also very satisfied with Ordos' attitude. Blood Fury did not pay much heed to capturing a controller with only a few worlds at all. In fact, in his opinion, His Majesty the Celestial Devil King had no need to personally take action at all. The entire personal guard team had been mobilized. It would be a huge joke if they still could not take down a mere controller. Ordos did not dare to delay. He immediately led Blood Fury and the other Celestial Devils out of the Celestial Devil world, and rushed towards the direction of his detection.